As we examine these important Vedic myths, we begin with the legend of Indra and Vritra, or the captive waters, which is generally believed to have been satisfactorily explained by the storm theory. The struggle between Indra and Vritra is represented in the Vedas as being fourfold in character. First is a struggle between Indra and Vritra, the latter of whom also appears under the names of Namuchi, Shushna, Shambhara, Vala, Pipru, Huvayev, and others. This is Vritra Turya, or the fight or struggle with Vritra. Secondly, it is a fight for the waters, which either in the form of Sindhus, rivers, or as Epah, simple floods, are often described as released or liberated by the slaughter of Vritra. This is Apturya, or the struggle for waters, and Indra is called Apsujit, or conquering in the waters, while Vritra is described as encompassing them. Thirdly, it is a struggle to regain the cows, and there are several passages in Rigveda where the cows are said to have been released by Indra after having overthrown Vritra. Fourthly, it is a fight to regain the daylight or heaven, or the striving for day. In many places, the sun and dawn are said to be brought out by Indra after killing Vritra. The following extracts from MacDonald's Vedic mythology give the requisite authorities from Rigveda for this fourfold character of the struggle between Indra and Vritra. Speaking of the terrible conflict, he thus sums up the principal incidents thereof, as mentioned in Rigveda. Heaven and earth trembled with fear when Indra strikes Vritra with his bolt. Even Tashtri, who forged the bolt, trembles at Indra's anger. Indra shatters Vritra with the bolt, and strikes his face with his pointed weapon. He smote Vritra, who encompassed the waters, or the dragon that lay around the waters. He overcame the dragon lying on the waters. He slew the dragon hidden in the water and obstructing the waters in the sky, and smote Vritra, who enclosed the waters like a tree with his bolt, thus conquering the waters with his exclusive attributes. As regarding the abode of Vritra, we have Vritra has a hidden abode, whence the waters, when released by Indra, escape, overflowing the demon. Vritra lies on the waters, or is enveloped by the waters, at the bottom of the Rajas, or aerial space. He is also described as lying on the summit, when Indra made the waters to flow. Vritra has fortresses, which Indra shatters when he slays them, which are 99 in number. He is called the encompasser of rivers in one passage. Cloud is described as being within his belly. There are passages where Indra is said to have placed Shushna, who was anxious to fight, in the darkness of the pit and slaughtered him in the darkness which was unrelieved by the rays of the sun. Darkness is said to have prevailed in Indra's hollow side, and Brihaspati, with Indra, is said to have hurled down the ocean, which was encompassed in darkness, and opened the stall of the kine. Finally, Vritra's body is said to have sunk in long darkness, being encompassed by waters. Shows that the waters of the ocean, which were encompassed by Vritra, were not lighted by the rays of the sun. In other words, the ocean which Vritra is said to have encompassed was different from the bright ocean, where the sun is said to have ascended. Vritra's ocean is enveloped in darkness, while the ocean which the sun ascended is bright and shining. Indra is again described as going to a very distant region to kill Vritra, or Namuchi. If we combine all these statements regarding the scene of the struggle between Indra and Vritra, we're led to the conclusion that the fight took place in a dark, distant, watery region. Indra is said to have killed Arbuda with ice, and the Angiras, who were the assistants of Indra in his conquest of the cows, are said to have struck Vala at the end of the year. There's another statement in Rigveda which gives us the date of Indra's fight with Shambhara, but we shall discuss this later on. It is stated above the number of Vritra's forts destroyed by Indra was given as 99, but other passages said it to be 90 or 100. These fortresses or cities are described as made of stone or iron, and in some places they are said to be autumnal. The importance of these facts and the interpretation of the legend will be discussed later on. We've seen the release of cows and the bringing up of the dawn and the sun are the simultaneous effects of Indra's conquest of Vritra. The following extract from MacDonald's Vedic mythology gives necessary authority on the point. With the liberation of waters is connected the winning of light, sun and dawn. Indra won light and the divine waters. The god is invoked to slay Vritra and win the light. When Indra had slain the dragon Vritra with his metallic bolt, releasing the waters for man, he placed the sun visibly in the heavens. Indra, dragon slayer, set in motion the flood of waters. He generated the sun and found the cows. He gained the sun and the waters after slaying the demon. When Indra slew the chief of the dragons and released the waters from the mountain, he generated the sun, the sky, and the dawn. Cows are also mentioned along with the sun and the dawn, or with the sun alone, as being found, delivered, or won by Indra. Indra is described in other passages as having released the streams pent up by the dragon. He's said to have won the cows and made the 7 rivers flow. The streams released by him have been described as flowing upwards. It may be further noticed that all these passages, clouds are not referred to under their ordinary name. Other names are used. Words which primarily mean a mountain, or udder, spring, cask, or pail. All these words have been interpreted by the Narutkas as meaning a cloud, and this interpretation has been accepted by Western scholars. The word go, which generally means cow, is often interpreted in some cases to mean waters released by Indra. Thus, when Indra is said to have released the cows, which were fast within the stone, or when he is said to have moved the rock which encompassed the cows from its place, it's understood that is a reference to a cloud rock which imprisoned rainwaters. Maruts are the usual companions of Indra in this fight, but Vishnu, Agni, and Brihaspati are also spoken of as assisting him in the rescue of the cows from the grip of Vala. Brihaspati's conquest of Vala, who had taken shelter in a rock, is thus taken to paraphrase Indra's conquest over Vritra. The Angiras are also described as driving out the cows, piercing Vala, and causing the sun to mount the sky, exploits which are usually attributed to Indra. There are other versions of the same story to be found throughout the Rig Veda, but for the purpose in hand, we need not go beyond those stated above. Now, whosoever reads this description of Indra's fight with Vritra cannot fail to be struck by the fact there are 4 simultaneous effects said to have been produced by the conquest of Indra over Vritra, namely, the release of the cows, the release of the water, the production of dawn, and the production of the sun. Now, let us see if the storm theory can satisfactorily explain the simultaneous production of these results from the destruction of Vritra. Vritra is a cloud, storm cloud or a rain cloud, hovering in the sky, and by smiting it with his thunderbolt, Indra may well be described as realizing the waters prisoned there. But where are the cows which are said to be released along with the waters? The Narutkas interpret cows to mean waters, but in that case, the release of the waters and the release of the cows can't be regarded as 2 distinct effects. The recovery of the dawn and of the sun, along with the release of waters, is, however, still more difficult to explain by storm theory, or we might even say that it cannot be explained at all. While rain clouds may temporarily obscure the sun, the phenomenon is not one which occurs regularly, and it is not possible to speak of the production of light of the sun as resulting from the breaking up of the clouds, which may only occasionally obscure the sun. The recovery of the dawn as a prize of the conflict between Indra and Vritra, simultaneous with the release of waters, is similarly quite inexplicable by the storm theory. The rain clouds usually move in the heavens, and though we may occasionally find them on the horizon, it's absurd to say that by striking the clouds Indra brought out the dawn. I know of no attempt made by any scholar to explain the 4 simultaneous effects of Indra's fight with Vritra by any other theory. Storm theory appears to have been suggested by the Nerutkas because the release of waters was supposed to be the principal effect of the conquest, and waters were naturally understood to mean the waters which we see every day. But in spite of the efforts of the Nerutkas and Western scholars, simultaneous winning of light and waters still remains unexplained. MacDonald, referring to this difficulty, observes, "There appears to be confusion between the notion of the restoration of the sun after the darkness of the thunderstorm and the recovery of the sun from the darkness of the night at dawn. The latter trait in Indra myth is most probably only an extension of the former. If this means anything, it is only a confession of the inability of Vedic scholars to explain the four simultaneous effects of Indra's conquest over Vritra by the storm theory, and strange to say, they seem to attribute their failure not to their own ignorance or inability, but to the alleged confusion of the ideas on the part of the Vedic bards. These are not, however, the only points in which the storm theory fails to explain the legend of Indra and Vritra. It has been pointed out earlier that Vritra was killed in distant regions in which ghastly darkness reigned, which abounded in waters, while Indra, by killing Namuchi, is said to have cleared the gates of the Devayana path, evidently meaning that Vritra was killed at the gates of the path leading to the region of the gods. Even in the Avesta, the fight between Apuasha and Tistriya is said to have taken place in the Sea of Vorukasha. Tistriya is described as moving along the path made by Mazda after his fight with Apuasha. Vritra's abode is similarly described as hidden and enveloped by water at the bottom of Rajas. None of these conditions is satisfied by making the storm cloud the scene of the battle between Indra and Vritra, for a cloud cannot be said to be the ocean of waters, nor can it be described as lying in a distant region, or in the threshold of the Devayana or path to the gods. In Rig Veda, Paravat is usually contrasted with Airavat, which means a distant region on the other side, as contrasted to the region on this or the nearer side. The Devayana is similarly contrasted with the Pitriyana, and it means the northern celestial hemisphere. The clouds over the head of the observer cannot be said to be either in a distant region or at the gates of the Devayana, nor can we speak of them as enveloped by sunless darkness. It is therefore highly improbable that rain clouds could have been the scene of the battle between Indra and Vritra. It was a sea on the other side. The dark ocean is contrasted with the bright ocean, which the sun mounts in the morning, where the battle was fought according to passages referred to earlier, and its description is appropriate only in the case of the netherworld, the celestial hemisphere that lies underneath, and not in the case of clouds moving in the sky above. It's not meant to say that Indra may not have been the god of rain or thunderstorms, but as Vitrahan, killer of Vritra, it's impossible to identify him with the god of rain, if the description of the fight bound in the Vedic passages is not to be ignored or set aside. The third objection to the current interpretation of the Vritra myth is that it does not satisfactorily explain the passages which give the time of Indra's fight with the demon. On the storm theory, the fight must be placed in the rainy season, but the forts of Vritra, which Indra is said to have destroyed and thus acquired these epithets, are described in the Rig Veda as autumnal, belonging or pertaining to Sharad, the season that follows Varsha. Discrepancy may be accounted for by supposing that Varsha and Sharad were once included under one season, which was named not Varsha but Sharad. But the explanation is opposed in another passage in Rig Veda, which says that Vala was killed at the end of the year. Unless we again suppose the year commenced with Sharad in those days, nor can we explain how Arbuda is said to be killed with ice by Indra. Again, as previously stated, the dawn could not be considered a surprise of the conflict, nor could the fight be said to have been fought in darkness, if we choose the rainy season as the time of the battle of Indra with Vritra. It will thus be seen that the storm theory does not satisfactorily explain the statements regarding the time of the struggle between Indra and Vritra. The fourth objection against the storm theory, as applied to the story of Vritra, is that many of the words, as shown above, do not signify a cloud, either primarily or secondarily, and have to be interpreted as referring figuratively to a rain cloud. This sounds harsh in many a passage where Indra or Brihaspati are described as piercing a mountain or breaking open a stone cave and liberating waters or cows confined therein. In the absence of any other theory, we have to interpret these passages by the storm theory, as the Narutkas have done, by assigning to any and every word used to denote the prison house of waters by cows the meaning of rain cloud moving in the sky. But though we could thus temporarily get over the difficulty, the fact that we had to strain the words used or assign unnatural meanings for them is always a drawback, which detracted from the value of interpretation. It was probably for this reason that Professor Oldenburg was led to suggest that Indra's piercing the mountain and liberating the waters therein should be understood to refer not to the rain cloud, but the actual striking of the mountains with the thunderbolt and making the rivers flow forth from them. But, as observed by Max Mueller, rivers do not gush out of rocks even when they have been struck by lightning. So Professor Oldenburg's explanation, though it gets us out of one difficulty, lands us on another, which is to say at least equally puzzling. If we therefore cannot suggest a better explanation, we may as well accept the device of the Narutkas and interpret Parvata, or whatever other word or words to be found used to know a place the confinement of waters as meaning a cloud, explained the legend of Vritra by the storm theory, as best we could. It can be found from the foregoing discussion regarding the storm theory, as replied to the legend of Indra and Vritra, that it explains neither the simultaneous effect of Indra's conquest over Vritra, nor statements regarding the seat of the battle between them, nor those regarding the time when it took place, nor again does it allow us to take the words used in certain Vedic passages in their natural sense. And yet we find the theory has been accepted as the basis of the legend from the times of the Narutkas up to the present. Why should it be so, is a question which would naturally occur to anyone who examines the subject. It's true the storm theory fully explains the release of waters as a result of the fight, but the release of waters is not the only consequence which we have to account for. There are 4 simultaneous effects of the war: the release of the waters, the release of the cows, the recovery of the dawn, and the production of sun. Storm theory explains the first 2, and the dawn theory the last of these. The whole set of 4 is explained by neither, nor could the theories be so combined as to explain all 4 effects, unless, like Professor MacDonald, we suppose the Vedic bards confused the 2 entirely different ideas, the restoration of sunlight after thunderstorm, and the recovery of light from the darkness of night. Of the 2 theories, the storm and the dawn, the ancient Narutkas therefore seem to have adopted that which adequately accounted for the release of the waters, which suited better their notion of Indra as a thunder god, on the principle that half a loaf is better than none, and having ignored the remaining incidents of this legend as inexplicable, unimportant, and immaterial. The same theory has been adopted by Western scholars. It's the only theory in the field at present, but it is so manifestly inadequate that if a better theory could be found which will explain most of, if not all, the incidents in the legend, no one would hesitate to abandon the storm theory in favor of the latter. Thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing to our videos. If you know anyone interested in this kind of content, please let them know. It sure helps us out a lot.